G'day ladies and gentlemen, Zuckville here bringing you some Heart of the Swarm action here. Today we're going to watch a Zerg vs Terran. It's going to be one of the bigger names in the European scene. Of course, a lot of people will know him from Brood War. You also may know him from some of his performances in his previous team, but he's also just joined up, well, not recently, but a little while ago, with one of the other big teams in the scene. Starting up at the top right-hand side as our blue Terran player, it is going to be EmpireBratOK. And he's going to be facing off against a good friend of mine down the bottom left-hand side of Daybreak as our red Zerg player here. It is Crimson. We've done a couple of casts of Crimson before, I believe, against, I believe it was a ZvT on the Korean server. It was the Wings of Liberty, but this time he's finally jumped into Heart of the Swarm, and we're going to see how he goes here with, of course, some of the new units, some of the new abilities, all these cool things that Zerg have to play around with, of course, representing Team Iris. We've also seen a couple of the other, well, at least one. I know I did a cast of Horizon, one of the Iris team members that plays Terran, and he's been doing some really cool mech versus Protoss stuff, and just mech in general. Been showing me a little bit of the ropes as well. Yeah, of course, Team Iris from New Zealand, based in New Zealand. In fact, I'm pretty sure all their players are from New Zealand. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone. But yeah, we'll see a pretty interesting game. Of course, Daybreak, a nice, easy way to take the natural here. Of course, you do see the third commonly taken quite quickly as well. A lot of games on this map tend to go to a split sort of position where both players have, like the macro games, obviously I'm talking about, not your cheese games, but you get some games that go up to this sort of position where both players have taken anywhere up to 4 bases and the map becomes very split. Terrans who play a buyer style will commonly use drops and these kinds of things to just sort of jet around the map, of course, try and drop into these outlying bases down the side, sometimes getting in the back here at the third base as well. And of course, you know, the Zerg players in Heart of the Swarm, we've seen a lot of Zergs try and go for an Ultralisk based style. Of course, the Ultralisk now just doing flat damage to any units they encounter, and it is absolutely brutal to watch. You know, a lot of players have been just adding in those Vipers, of course, a very powerful spellcaster unit. These guys are able to throw down their blinding cloud. They can use Abduct to pick out tanks and sort of pull them out of a battle so that they can be sniped down. All these kinds of cool things, and it is making me all wiggly and jiggly for Heart of the Swarm. I'm sure everybody has been watching some of the recent Heart of the Swarm tournaments that have been going on. Of course, the GSTL pre-season was run in Heart of the Swarm as well. We saw some really cool stuff there from some of those players. In fact, one of my favorite games just recently was watching Sleep versus First in the grand final of the GSTL pre-season. We got to see some really cool usage of Swarm hosts, and while, you know, spoiler alert, perhaps the game didn't go too well for Sleep in the end, it was really cool to see just some players sort of experimenting with how to use the units. So I'll be looking forward to seeing if Crimson is going to do something cool, perhaps with the Swarm host. Of course, ZvT, you don't often see the Swarm host being used just at the moment. Of course, we're still in the beta, well, at least for another 15 days or so. We've still got, you know, a lot of testing that needs to be done. Players need to run around and try and mess about with their various sorts of builds and these kinds of things. But the common understanding, at least what I have been told, is that ZvT, you don't commonly see the Swarm host just because there are a few very good ways to stop them. Not to mention, you can also utilize your scans to scout out the Swarm host, as opposed to playing ZvP, where you have to utilize mostly observers, and then you can pick those off with an Overseer and some Queens or some Corruptors, these kinds of things. Bratok, meanwhile, has gone for an extremely fast third base here. He's got his barracks is already done, of course, so the factory is on the way. We've got a reactor now coming down as well, but he has found a stray Overlord. Crimson not going to be happy with that result there. Going to lose that guy, but of course he'll be able to get that back up very soon. It is going to put him in the red for just a moment here. I would assume he's got two extra Overlords about to pop out, but you know, it's just really nice scouting by Bratok to just run around the map with these first couple of Marines, pick off whatever units they can find, and you know, it's just a very nice way to open up. Keep in mind, just for the time being, I don't think Crimson has seen the fast third base. No, not yet. yet. Hasn't actually seen that that is coming along and is going to add a nice little economic boost here for BratOK. He does go up to a second factory, so we could see some either some Blue Flame Hellions, given that we are getting an additional a tech lab there, they'll probably be switched over, or perhaps we may see just a small, at least initial signs of a mech play coming out of BratOK. But from what I understand, he's mostly a bio player, so who knows, we'll see very soon. Meanwhile, for Crimson, of course, he's got his double Evo chambers going up, wanting to make a bit of a choke point here at the front door of the natural. The Roach Warren has also gone down, and he is switching into the lair. That's just a short while away from being completed. And now with 4 gases, he is going to have a lot of options opening up to him, and we'll see how he decides to react to this Terran foe. The Hellions are now just out and about on the map. The first one coming across, going to deny this third base. The drone is going to try and run away. In fact, he will get away, interestingly enough. The Hellion deciding that holding position is the better part of valor in that case, and he's just gonna maintain the map control for now. Of course, BratOK has a good eye on what's going on. He can even try and deny some of these creep tumors from progressing any further out. One thing that Crimson has been doing very well that I have seen in some of his replays is his creep spread. It's quite a decent job of getting that around the map. Now, BratOK has opened up, of course, with those couple of factories, and we do see that Crimson is now just scouting through. He's going to find that it is not a full mech switch. It is going to be a bio-based play. Of course, you know, an extra 4 racks going down, going to enable BratOK to get that bio army going. A couple of Widow Mines just protecting the third base here. This is still not being scouted as of yet by Crimson. He's had no inclination to check down here just yet. Just sort of it's a situation of, well, when do any Terrans take a third base that fast? We've seen a lot of Protoss players go for a very fast third base due to the fact that they can add in the Mothership Core and a couple of early gateway units to defend very easily. But I must say I haven't actually seen Terran players go for it this quickly. And yep, Crimson does finally spot that. He sees that the third base is now down and ready to go. It looks like we'll have a Roach attack coming along from him, though. He's actually got 1-1 on his upgrades already just about to complete, and the Roach speed is also on the way. So these guys are going to run along and try and get some damage done on this third base. Of course, there are a couple of Widow Mines here. We've already seen one of them take a shot at the Overseer, but the Overseer will now know that it is there and able to spot it coming along. In fact, does he get rid of the Widow Mines? Gets rid of both. Not before taking a shot there. BratOK very cleverly lifts up the command center there and decides to head back home, because this could be a very interesting fight. That is a lot of roaches. This may get a massive amount of damage done. Widow Mines at the back trying to help out, but the tank goes down very quickly. A few Marines to the left over are left to try and defend against all of these roaches, and I tell you what, that is not a fun thing to try and deal with. BratOK, with a lonely tank up at the top of the cliff there, is able to get a couple of shots off before he goes down. The Overseer is providing vision up the top of the cliff there, doing a really good job just getting as many of these units down as he can. Of course, Crimson probably not going to finish off his opponent here, but he's downsized quite a lot of the workers there. 14 workers killed in total. I think the BratOK is going to just move the tanks around and utilize the Sim City that he has here. Takes a couple of shots at the roaches, and it looks like that may be it for the time being. I doubt there'll be too much more damage done, although Crimson finds a couple of spots here, takes down a few more SCVs, and may be able to get some of these Marines as well, but eventually will be forced down. He's going to try and head back in. A little bit of micro required to take down that SCV, but he has done a decent job. And as we look at the worker kill tally, 20 workers killed for a sizable amount of roaches. Of course, looking at the actual the Harvesters tab, we've got Crimson behind all of this, took his third base, powered up to 70 drones, and is looking very, very nice right now. Of course, his fourth base now getting started in the middle. Creep spread just starting to push through the middle section here. Of course, we'll probably want to see it go along all of the various corridors. Of course, we've got one corridor through the middle, the other one up through the top as well, and then of course the one down the bottom side. So all of these parts, if you can creep up all of those, it is a very, very handy thing. Not only does it give you units a nice amount of speed boost to add in when those ground units are marching their way across the map, it also allows you to get some really good vision through that middle section. So he's going to try and just sit back for the moment. Of course, he's done a heavy amount of economic damage. BratOK is now getting his second factory going. There is a starport finally on the way. Very a little bit late, if I suppose, with the starport, but he did go for a very quick expansion over here. And we do see that he's re-established the third. So for the moment, BratOK could be sitting in a relatively troublesome position down at 97 supply. His upgrades are on the way. We can see that +1 on the vehicle weapons is coming through. 1-1 is already done on the infantry weapons for now. And of course 2-2 is just on the way. We can see on that sexy upgrades tab what is already done. Of course stim combat shields are already done. +2 on the missile attacks and +1 on the carapace is already ready for Crimson. So his force of, we've got some roaches and a couple of hydras. A really interesting sort of composition that's coming along. These guys still waddling their way across the map. They're about to get their speed boost. There it is, just kicking in right now. But the battle has already commenced at the third base here. It looks like Crimson is going to have a very powerful force, but can he contend with all of these Marines? Looks like the Marine line is going to slowly go down, and I think Crimson has just enough to bust through the remaining units that BratOK has here. The reinforcements are slowly on their way, but with the tanks needing to unsiege and the Marines a little bit behind, he is finally able to get down there, but not before a few more workers have been killed. Just look at these Hydras there, just strutting their stuff now that they've got that speed boost upgrade. Not to mention the groove spines is already done as well. And with 2-2, he gets another decent attack done. 30 workers killed in total now, so an extra 10 added on to that tally for Crimson, so he's done a very nice job. However, has he really done a huge amount to the economy? Well, let's have a look at the income tab right now. Of course, with mules, you know, BratOK is not... He's not troubled right now, but he will be regretting the loss of those early 20 SCVs that he threw down. And it looks like Crimson is going to continue on with all of this pressure. We got some roaches just knocking on the front door. Little pig will let me in, they say, but not by the hair of my siege tank chin. And they blast down the roaches, bodies of roaches getting blown apart, their carcasses everywhere. And I like some of these new animations there. There was my phone just going off. But it looks like BratOK is going to finally get some drop harassment going with the medevac just heading through the top section of the map. It looks like he is going to try and get across to the 5th base up the top side here. But Crimson, he's got a lot out. He's up at 166 supply. Interestingly enough, we still don't have Ling speed that is being researched right now. He's also getting an Ultralisk Cavern and has the Infestation Pit already down. So there is a possibility of some Swarm hosts coming out here. Just have a look at that creep spread. Fantastically done all across the top section of the map. It looks like he is going to perform that drop here. BratOK just going to push through the top edge here. We'll try and see what he can get done. And with the creep spread continuing to push out, Crimson is really sort of cementing his position right now. However, I'm not sure about this attack. Throwing away a lot of these Lings, perhaps not too bad, given that the supply is going to be needed to bust out a whole bunch of Ultralisks. As we can see, 5 Ultras on the way. The Baneling Nest just finishing up now as well. But there is a drop attack at the top side, and that has gotten the hatchery, which is a nice little grab for BratOK there. He's not done yet. Going to continue on down to the 4th base here. There is another drop attack also coming into the main as well. Will Crimson be able to defend against this? His Lings are starting to pop out, and he is getting quite a few of them. But you know, where are all of the units? They're still stuck across at the other side of the map. Crimson down to 130 supply. He's invested so much in these Ultralisks, and this means that there is a very minimal sort of force to actually defend against these drops. And as you can see, this could cost him quite a lot. This hatchery in jeopardy. The drones that were here also in jeopardy. We're now down to 57 workers for Crimson, so he has suffered quite a lot at the hands of these 2 drops that have done a momentous amount of damage here inside the 3rd and the natural bases of Crimson. So of course he does now have these power units out. The Ultralisks now starting to come into effect. Interestingly enough, they cannot get through this wall, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. Well, I'm pretty sure they can't. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't have them out the front now, but I think this, the Roach Warrant actually blocks off that little portion there. Isn't big enough for the Ultras to get through. They need to lose some weight, go on a low-carb diet or something like that, because they need to be able to bust through there. But the upgrades still continue to pour out from both of the players. We've got the 2-3 on the way for Crimson for his melee units. Of course, those Ultras going to really benefit from those upgrades. They, of course, have their chitinous plating is also done as well. Now they're going to be very tanky, and here we go. It looks like he's going to try and... No, push through the center there. Of course, a couple of tanks, and the tanks with 0-1 on their upgrades almost about to 0-2, and 3-3 just about to complete for BratOK. So he's certainly got a lot of potential here now that he's taken his 4th base. We've got a huge amount of tanks here. 9 tanks in total at this the front side of his base. A couple more coming up at a time. Of course, we've got double factory. We've got starports, a starport bringing out medevacs at a time. And now he does need to do this particular cleanup job here. He needs to put on his janitor's hat and clean up some of this creep, because it is absolutely everywhere. Crimson Crimson spreading it down through the southern side, but that is also being cleaned up nicely by BratOK. Through the middle, there is a bit there as well, but it looks like we'll have a push. A couple of tanks going to siege up. He's going to get ready to lay waste to this this fourth base of Crimson. And what does he have to defend this? We've got, of course, all of these ultras, and it looks like he has finally spotted that was in the way. But now we do have some Vipers, and of course these guys, we've got them feasting on some of their own buildings. Unfortunately, there are no buffet buildings at all, which is a term I'd like to coin for the buildings where players will throw down hatcheries and evo chambers so that you can feast on the buildings there. The buffet buildings coming about, but not just yet from Crimson. Looks like he's getting prepared for the attack. The Viper's getting ready to throw down a couple blinding clouds on top of 4 tanks just as they siege up. That is the just most terrible sort of thing to happen to BratOK here. He gets mowed down by the Ultras and the Lings. Unfortunately, the Lings have now all but been destroyed, and it's just left to the Ultras, but with blinding cloud down on some of these units, it looks like he is still able to get a ridiculous amount of damage done. So he cleans up that attack. Ultras are still left alive. What we really want to see is the bases re-established for Crimson as quickly as possible. Not to mention perhaps getting some queens out as well. But I'll tell you what, not losing the Vipers would be a beautiful thing too, but unfortunately he does lose them. And now the tanks are going to be walking in, the Ultras are now going to be walking into just a huge group of tanks, and of course there are some Marauders and Marines here. So that is going to be cleaned up by BratOK. He's has suffered quite a few losses there as well. He's down to 129 supply. The Marauder's going to try and retreat through the front door of the Natural there, and they will get away for the most part, and the Ultras will be forced to back off for the time being. So BratOK has he's brought things back despite the big losses here at that battle with the blinding cloud and all of these things that went down, giving Crimson a really big advantage. The supply count is still 143 to 150. BratOK has got all of these racks here. He's got 8 racks in total. We've got all these factories as well, and he's just got a huge amount of production coming out right now. He's really boosting out not only the medevac count, but also he's bringing out all of these Marauders. We've got 10 Marines at a time. We've even got Terran building armor. He's in that sort of position right now where the upgrades are no longer needed. And Crimson, well, he's got his melee attack on the way. We've got a couple of Vipers being produced. They're sucking down some of that energy so that they can get ready to throw down some more blinding cloud, or perhaps even a couple of abducts. BratOK, I don't know how this medevac is still alive, but it is. And that's a very sneaky medevac there, just sitting there off the side of the third base of Crimson. But he has, you know, he's still got a heap of these medevacs back at home. We've got 12 medevacs in this big group here. That's enough for quite a lot of these Marauders and Marines. What has Crimson got? Well, he's got some Ultras. We've got 9 Ultras in total. We've got 4 Vipers up in the sky, able to throw down their blinding cloud. Of course, we've still got a few of these Banelings out here as well. I'm just a little bit interested in this composition. Of course, blinding cloud, a fantastic way to sort of immobilize some of these units in a way. Of course, tanks, if they're sieged up, they can't actually do a single thing if there's a blinding cloud. They have to unsiege, move out of the cloud, re-siege, all these things, and it takes time to get that done. And now, as we can see, BratOK is starting to get prepared for late game here. We've got the Corvid reactor being researched right now. 2 Ravens at a time starting to come out. Of course, these are very handy ways to utilize the Terran tech in the late game. Now that he's up at 200 supply, he's got to try and figure out a way to move into late game and be able to still get some decent damage done. And it looks like he's going to get some double drops going. We've got 1 drop inside the natural base here. Gets picked up. It looks like one of the Marines stuck on the low ground there. That's not good for him at all. But while this is going on, there is another drop up at the top side. The medevac just boosting away around, trying to get away from all of these forces that are coming up. The Ultras come across and are not able to stop it in the least part, because the medevac does get away. And it looks like the drop will still go on. We've got it coming through to the third base here. That secondary medevac that's been waiting here. It was a plan of BratOK the whole time. Look at that, he's now got double heals for these groups of units here. So he is going to try and escape. Perhaps this Viper looking for an abduct, unfortunately has no energy just at the moment. The forces of BratOK are really starting to get scary. This is the point of late game at TVZ where things start to get very, very worrisome for our Zerg player. Of course, the tanks have now got 0-2 on their upgrades. They're about to get 1-2. There you go. The Marauders are also here. These guys have 3-3 stim concussive shells. We've got all of these medevacs up in the air, and even with a couple of Vikings up in the sky to protect against some of those Vipers, things are going to get very messy. And a drop goes on at the third base again, but the Ultras have just decided it is go time. They come across to the 4th base of BratOK. In fact, the 5th base of BratOK, mow that one down. One of the command centers still left in the air. Unfortunately, Ultralisk can't jump, and it looks like we'll have a little bit of a base trade going on. Crimson he has so much power in all of this army here, and a couple of Hunter Seeker missiles coming out from BratOK trying to take care of the Ultras before they can get too much damage done. Looks like the worker count of Crimson has been reduced down to 28, so he's going to be in a little bit of trouble now that his economy has been absolutely decimated. Of course, he has lost his 3rd, lost his 4th, and the natural is all but done as well. The tech is in jeopardy as well. Keep in mind the Hydra Den, the Ultra Cavern, the Infestation Pit, the Hive, all of these important buildings are now up the top, but with some blinding clouds. Looks like Crimson is able to come back and take down some of those units, and with a couple of abducts as well, he's able to remove the tanks out of their safety positions, and he does win the fight. He takes all of that down, but the question is, look at his economy. 22 drones right now. Of course, BratOK only has his own 40 SCVs, but what he does have is a lot of orbital commands. He's got all of these to back him up. He's still got a massive bank right now. Look at that. We've got about 2,500 gas and minerals available to BratOK right now, so he is in a very powerful position right now. He just needs to be very careful with the remaining forces that he has. Of course, it would be really nice to see him perhaps sort of wall off the top of this position here, but it looks like he's going to go to work with those with the Ravens there, throwing down some Hunter Seekers, of course 100 damage, and then splashing some of that on top of those Ultras, and it looks like it is the last dying breath of Crimson here. He doesn't have enough minerals to get another hatchery going, and he can't even build one at one of the bases that does have minerals, and it looks like the Ultras are getting targeted down, glowing red because they are being targeted, of course. There go the missiles taking down some of the Ultras, and the last few will fight to try and reclaim some of their dignity here, but unfortunately it is not going to happen. Crimson down to 40 supply. GG, well played from the IrisZerg player there. Very nice game from both players. Of course, we saw Crimson going up to the Viper Tech there, a really interesting way to try and add in some different functionality in the army of a Zerg player, but unfortunately BratOK with some drops going on all over the map. Of course, his upgrades going along everywhere, and he was just really able to sort of just cement himself in that late game, which can be quite a troublesome spot in late game TVZ. So hope you all enjoyed that match. It was a lot of fun. If you have your own games, of course, there is still a little bit of time left over before the HOTS beta goes down, so if you want, please feel free to send them through. I'll try and get them done, and we'll release them as quickly as possible. I'll catch you all next time. Cheers. They, of course, do have +1 on their weapons, and he's just going to walk in right now, and there isn't really too much that Daisy is going to be